Okay, so this is a part of the presentation that I would like to introduce Marc Williams, ethnobotanist and extraordinary chef, mead maker, and lecturer. I would like you to think along the lines of how you could possibly add value to your ginseng roots and make more money. I do want to say at this juncture, and we've been talking about it, that mid-March we're going to try and produce a auction for traditional Chinese medicine people and herbalists in the area. And it's going to be very small first, but it should be historic in trying to get our local roots to local practitioners for local medicine. And you will be hearing more about that. If anybody in the local area would like to help with this event, it's going to be a lot of fun. Please contact me at the end. Okay. Marc, take it away.
All right. So I think I'm going to stand here. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? All right, good. Thank you. Did everybody also get a handout? If anybody didn't get a handout, we have some more here. So feel free, come up, get one, or take one down, pass them around.
Oh, I need one. Thank you.
Alrighty, so as Robert was saying, a big thing when you have such a precious commodity like ginseng is how to make the most of that. And one way that you can do that is to go from having just the root itself, which is kind of a known standardized quantity, and extend that out into a story through developing another product that incorporates the root, or maybe not even necessarily the root, but the leaf, and potentially even also some analogs, some other plants that are potentially similar in chemistry to ginseng, like jagulan or sweet tea vine as it's known, or other things that are from the ginseng family that can have similar properties. So that's kind of what I have focused on for you here, is a few example products that can be used to incorporate ginseng into something, but that could mostly rely on actually other ingredients as far as like the makeup of the product on a per weight and volume basis. Right? So I kind of have some different categories, and I have, as you can see here, some show and tell. And I think the first thing that is up here is something that's maybe one of the more familiar things for a lot of people at this point, which is kombucha. All right, so how many people are familiar with kombucha at this point? Maybe about, say, 2/3 of the people, 3/4. So this is a very ancient beverage out of Asia that incorporates a gelatinous mass, which is about as appealing to look at as that is to say, but does this magic transformation of sweet tea. And I'm kind of in between cultures right now myself. I've been on the road a lot, so I don't have that to actually show you, but that being said, it's very easy to get a hold of this, certainly online through listservs or Facebook groups, or also through like co-ops, or even for that matter, if you have a raw product from the grocery store, you can start a new batch. So fairly easy to get this going, should you want to do that, and also very cost saving in order to do that versus buying it in the store. But that being said, we've got an incredible product that is available in our stores, but also all over the East Coast at this point, but it was born here in Asheville, the Bucci folks. And I just really want to lift them up some because I've done a lot of travels. I've been through all 50 states, for instance, and everywhere I go, I try the kombucha of the area. And a lot of more, shall we say, alternative places, especially say college towns, will have like a kombuchery now, where they're making their own kombucha. And I really feel in an objective stance that that Bucci has the best flavor. But beyond that, they also have some really great ingredients, some really health supportive ingredients that they incorporate into their formulations, much more so than any other company I've seen. And I know that Robert from Eagle Feather Farm has talked with them about incorporating ginseng, and that's not something that's come to pass yet. Maybe it could be a limited edition type of situation, but certainly something to kind of think about. And then beyond kombucha, which a lot of people are familiar with, as was demonstrated, there's a bit more of an obscure beverage that's very similar called Jun, J-U-N. And instead of feeding the culture sugar, you're feeding it honey, right? And so that's something that is available commercially out west, but it's not something that we really have in the East yet. So that's kind of, I'd say, a cutting edge to go towards, other than the fact that, of course, honey is so expensive now, right? It's really hard to keep bees, and that's really kind of pushed the price point of things that incorporate honey to an edge as far as, especially commercial types of products. But certainly for a personal level, that might be something that could be of interest even still. So that's something to be aware of. A little bit harder to get your hands on. And like the kombucha, I'm kind of in between cultures right now. Often at a class like this, I might try to bring some to share with people. But if anybody got real excited about it, you could be in touch with me. I've got some contact information here about the nonprofit I work for, Plants and Healers International, which is dedicated to continuing the work of Frank Cook. And Frank's actually the one who inspired the name of Robert's farm, Eagle Feather Farm, and certainly has inspired me in a lot of ways, including the kombucha and other fermented beverages. So I would highly encourage you to check that out in and of itself. All right. So that's kombucha and Jun, and the next thing I want to move towards is this quick and easy fire cider. So I'm going to pass some cups around so people can have a sample of this one. Can you pass that? You can go that way. So who's heard of fire cider? People. A lot fewer people in kombucha. So fire cider is an interesting one. I kind of think of this as a stock and trade thing that all of you would do well to incorporate into your life. It's something that is very easy to make at home and also very easy to tailor to fit. So I have a recipe here that's inspired by one of my greatest teachers and mentors, Juliet Blankenspore, who is local to the area and has a bunch of really great resources online, I will say, too, Chestnut Herb School. And so I kind of adapted a little bit from what Juliet's come up with. Actually, it was like a Christmas present for me, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, which also brings to mind the kind of scope, the scale of this whole endeavor, right? Because certainly, as much as anybody, I would hope to be inspiration for more job creation, basically, in our area, based off of the things that we have locally, and certainly in a sustainable way as far as the resources that we're using. But at the same time, there are lots of other ways to employ this information and this knowledge, and we're going into the holiday season. And so for me, for quite a while, most of what I want to give people as presents for the holidays are things that I've either made myself or that I have sourced from local people that have made them, just to kind of support that economy on one hand, but also just know the sustainability of the methods of production and harvest and everything. And also just, I think a lot of people can agree that when you get a present that's like handmade, that's something that there's something special about that versus like, just something that anybody could get anywhere, any place, anytime, right? So with the fire cider, it's really great that way because also coming into the holidays, that's a time where a lot of sickness can be occurring. And so the fire cider is something that is helpful to keep that at bay. Now, since so few people are aware of fire cider, I guess I need to make it clear that there's been some controversy with that term, and like some folks have tried to trademark it, I guess, and I'm not exactly sure even how it's played out. I don't think there's been like a finale with it, but I think the point more than anything is that this is something that's been made by a lot of people for a long time, way before this current controversy with this relatively new company. And I guess that's also like another point of distinction as far as like going into business and trying to do this and having it be for sale and making sure obviously you're in the free and clear with whatever that might be. And obviously there can be some creative naming and rebranding if for whatever reason that were to come to pass, that some one company could like hold the name fire cider. But regardless, that does not preclude you being able to make it yourself and for your friends and for your family and everything like that. So pretty straightforward. You take these ingredients that are listed there, and in this case, ginseng has been added since we're talking about ginseng, and then basically just let it marinate at a warm temperature, and you can start tasting it after a few hours. And the longer you leave it, typically the stronger it's going to get. Something I will say that I also added to this, because I just happened to have a lot of it, was some celery seed. So it's an open format. And something else I would like to say with all of this that's really big for me, and I feel like ultimately, though really big even say at like a business commercial level. So branching everything from the kind of psycho-spiritual, emotional to dollars and cents is the story that is involved with all of this, right? And incorporating good story, right? And building layers of story. Just like you can think about building layers of topsoil in your garden, or even for your non-timber forest products out in the woods, you need nice organic matter, some topsoil. Well, that is what can happen at every single level of interaction with the things that you're creating, right? So an example I have for you today with what's in the fire cider is the recipe called for turmeric, all right? And so whereas like I basically use turmeric all the time, and I would highly encourage all of you to incorporate as much turmeric as you can, because it's an amazing plant. Lots of great research out there on it. And at the same time, what I wanted to do, because I was making something special, not just like my regular omelet or curry or soup or whatever, but something for all of you here, and ultimately for presents for other people. A good friend whose birthday it is today, for instance. I took special turmeric, so I have turmeric that is from Costa Rica, from Finca Luna Nueva, which some of my good friends here from Ohio might recognize. It's part of the United Plant Savers Sanctuary. So this is a place that grows native medicinal plants, both for commercial sale to companies like New Chapter, one of the bigger products you'd see in the natural food store, but also they have a sanctuary of more rare native medicinals that aren't necessarily of commercial use, but that are potentially threatened. And so there's some turmeric from that place there, and then some from my friend Connor, who's an incredible beekeeper down in Florida. And then even some fresh, like live turmeric from my stepmom, Grace, from down in Florida as well. And so just in that one product, you've got like 3 great stories. You've got 3 incredible places and people that are supporting the kind of the topsoil that is building up there energetically. And to me, that is alone significant. But I think also because we are here in a way to kind of, marketplace is written in the name of this, which anyway is something that, it's like I'm torn, and I got a minor in business for my undergraduate degree, and so I get it, but I am torn by that double-edged sword, right, of like making this into something that is a market and has like monetary stuff versus things that I feel like have really intrinsic value independent of any kind of monetary value, right? But the point being is that if you have like a good story for your product, then that is something that adds value. It does, and you see that more and more, especially with the craft brewery type movements that are out there, and with the beer in particular, you can see on their label they're trying to tell these stories. Also, though, with Bucci, with the kombucha, like some of their different varieties, there is like a benefit that is shared with another local business. So like their seed variety, some of the profits go to the local seed company, So True Seed. And one of the other varieties goes to support a local school. And so these are all things to kind of think about. And I think with the United Plant Savers in particular, I have this kind of dream of different beverages that might, feature certain commercially available, sustainably available things that could also then be an entryway for people to learn more about plant conservation. And so I would highly encourage anybody else to think about that in like kind of partnering with other groups, other organizations to complexify the story that's going on. All right, so that being said, I've got this fire cider here, hot off the press. It's also in a bottle that was a liqueur from Eagle Feather Farm historically, so I figured this would be the bottle because this did have some ginseng in it. At one point, that was in more of a liqueur form, which I'm going to be talking about in a second. But right now it's fire cider, and this is very strong. I actually used Carolina Reaper peppers. Some people might be familiar. That's like now the hottest pepper on earth, judged to be. But this isn't going to be like melt your face, but really it's like half a teaspoon or something would be like an effective dip. So just keep that in mind.
What did you call that pepper?
Carolina Reaper.
Mark, your recipe calls to add half the vinegar. When do you add the other half?
I like put it in a second, I kind of grind up everything in some of the vinegar just to get it fine, and then pour in the rest after that, basically. Yeah, and this can, the steam, as I talk about, you do have to be careful about that. Like when you take the lid off of that stuff, it's like getting heated up in there. Be careful, don't like put your face right in there. All right, so fire cider, not something that you're seeing too commercially. There are some commercial products out there, but certainly something that is fun to make and easy to make. And we can actually grow turmeric here now as an annual, as well as ginger. So pretty much everything in there, I guess with the exception of the pomegranate, is something that technically could be grown here. Could be like 100% local. So next thing is this idea of liqueurs, which is probably the simplest thing that you could possibly be making. And I've got some examples up here that people can check out. One is a commercial one from Corey Pine Shane from the Blue Ridge School of Herbal Medicine, his hot love potion. All right, so that's its own story, right? Obviously. Ginseng, big, famous, legendary in that way. There's another one here from more of a memory angle made by Dr. Dave Hamilton here that incorporates ginseng, but some other things too, more into a memory formula. I've got one here that's also from Eagle Feather Farm as well, from all products that are on the farm there. And with all of these things, you can kind of like focus on the bulk of it being things that are very commonly available and very easy to sustainably harvest. Maybe even things that are weedy, you know, even to the level of like the dandelion and the burdock and the yellow dock and those types of things. But also the sweet tea vine, the jagulan, as I mentioned before too, which is in the cucumber family, but shares chemistry, similar chemistry to ginseng, but grows like a cucumber, like a vine, and you use the leaves of it. So definitely something to think about, like maybe carrying a lot of the weight, and then the ginseng's just the kind of cherry on top, as it were. Okay. So with the liqueurs, though, very simple and straightforward as far as just putting your plant material, whatever it might be, into the container, the vessel of choice. I often would use mason jars, like this pint mason jar here, or larger, depending on the volume. And basically, then it's like 2 weeks at the minimum, typically, before it would be ready, and that's also a strength that you would like to have it at. And this is really a kind of quick and easy way around basically making a tincture, and then you're going to strain off that tincture and sweeten it. And there are some particulars with some plant material as far as, for instance, using fresh material versus dry material, and what part of the plant you might want to use. And that's way beyond where I'm going to go right now with you. But in general, very easy to do, right? Plant material covered in liquor, and then strain it off when it's the strength that you want. And obviously kind of infinitely open as far as what you might put in there. I personally have about 150 different species that I work with in the local area. And most of those, as I said, are things that are just like wildly occurring and very, very common, maybe even invasive, versus things like ginseng, which are more rare. All right. So next thing that can be a lot of fun to make is a soda. It can also be kind of challenging to make because you can break things very easily by trying to make a soda. But I thought I would just like put it out there, mention it anyway. And so this would be a good vessel to have at your disposal if you were making like a home level of soda, which is one of these bottles with the flip top, like that. And two reasons why. One is that you're going to be building up a whole bunch of pressure inside this container, and at times that pressure might get to be more than you really want. And with this type of system, you can release a little pressure, but then you can close it back up. So it'll like shoot up, you release some pressure, close it back, it settles back down, and you can do that repeatedly. Whereas with this, if you just have a fixed top, once you start opening it, if it's over pressurized, it's just going to start to shoot out, and there's no putting the genie back in the bottle, as it were, right? So that's something to think about. But also, bottles that have these flip tops have a thicker glass, so they're more crafted to withstand pressure, to be able to endure a lot of pressure, versus normal bottles. So that is another good reason to have these, because basically if you let the pressure build up to a breaking point, then eventually you can get to a place where glass will start flying in every direction, stuck to stuff with sweet liquid, and nobody wants that, right? So let's be clear about that. And so yeah, you just basically kind of have to keep your eyes on the prize, because by definition, you're going to be able to create more pressure than this container can hold, because you want your beverage to be real bubbly and carbonated and full of gas, which is basically the kind of side effect of fermentation, right, of any type. Now, of course, they have those machines now, the soda stream machines, and so that's like a really more easy way that doesn't incorporate a biological process, so then it's just fixed in place, you know, that you can take CO2 and force it into your sweet liquid and then have a soda that way. So great. What do people think of the fire cider? Did we do all right with that? You feeling better already? Everybody get some? No? Everybody got some? Okay. Good. All right. Well, maybe I'll join you. This is another thing too, I would say, is just every little piece, right? When we think about having like a craft product, like this little cup right here is a cup that's from the little 450-year-old town where my mom lives in the Netherlands. And what this cup came with was like a little jar like this, but it was ceramic like this cup that was full of this amazing tasting liqueur. And so like maybe you've seen anybody that goes to liquor stores and they have like say Jack Daniels or whatever, you know, Absolute Vodka or whatever, and they've got their own little cups, you know, that like kind of go with it. Well, you could do that with like your fire cider too. You could have like your own special, you know, container that both the cider's in, but even like a special vessel that people are going to like drink their fire cider. And we are creatures of habit. We are people that whatever stripe, shape, color, place, or whatever, we are hardwired for ritual. All right, and incorporating that into whatever you're making can be its own thing. So to my mom right now, for instance, thanks for sharing. And yeah, definitely spicy. No doubt about that. Go Carolina, Carolina Reaper.
Hey Mark.
Yes.
I want to comment about the firecider.com folks.
Okay.
They actually they're very clever with their marketing.
Yeah.
I think that's why they've gotten as far as they have, but they include like a little shot glass.
Yeah,
and
there you
sent
go.
To all the retail stores.
Right.
And that's how they kind of got their foot in the door. So.
Right. So there you go. And I mean, could be some like random shot glass. I mean, this is another example I have from my friend Paul Frahey, who's a local potter, and I've got a bunch of cups like this that I use for various different special occasions. And so every little piece is an opportunity to make something special, right? And to distinguish it from something that is some mass market, you know, just generic thing. All right.
Mr. Marc?
Yes.
Are you going to touch on regulations in terms of being able to produce, where you can produce?
I can. That's a good question, Janine, and I appreciate it. And it's certainly an important one. So yeah, and obviously that's going to really vary too, as far as like what your product is. But yeah, I could certainly speak to that for sure. I guess I'll just go into it real quick, and then I'll just kind of finish with the other stuff I want to share with you. So I definitely have really bridged all of the different worlds, right? And when I graduated from Warren Wilson College, which is where I got my bachelor's degree, I started a food business, and I was doing catering and food at festivals, and had a restaurant and food at farmers markets and the whole thing. And of course there's all of the different acronyms that are out there about good agricultural practices on the farm and best management practices and gaps in your food production facilities. And if you did want to make a commercial endeavor, there are ways to do that at a home scale. If it is especially an acidified food product, there's something called the Pickle School, which I went to, and is kind of an extended day training about making acidified food products, which are definitely way easier to do at a small scale, home scale, as well as baked goods versus anything else. If you want to do other things, and really kind of in general to go into a real commercial level of production, going into a shared use facility is going to be the #1 step that can kind of bridge the realm of the infrastructure that's necessary to have everything really dialed in and in place, and at the same time not go into some high, incredible levels of debt in order to have your own specifically dedicated facility just for your own thing, which you may or may not even use on a regular basis until the volume of your production steps up. We're so lucky. I mean, how many people know about Blue Ridge Food Ventures? So not nearly enough people. So the broad term is shared use facility, and there's lots of them, but Blue Ridge Fruit Ventures is one example that I have a space at as well at AD Tech in Inca Candler. And
there's one on the other side of that wall.
and one around the other side of the, so there you go. So how many people knew about that? Not me, so thanks, great. Madison County people, stand up, cooperative extension. Great, so so you can do it in a stepwise progression like Firesider. I think you could do at home, you know. I mean, there are some things, they're gonna test your water, you can't have animals around, it's not like any place. But acidified food's fairly easy to do initially at home, maybe just as a proof of concept thing. Then you step up into something like a shared use facility, and ideally you get to the place Bucci's actually coming here to Madison County. Right now they're over in Weaverville, and that's where they started, was Blue Ridge Fruit Ventures, as has probably 50 other food businesses in the area. Okay, so is that pretty decent? You know, I mean, I'm happy to talk more with people about if you really wanted to go to that level, then that is something that I'm happy to try to help foster and get you in touch with people that can maybe help you in that regard. Okay, so I think also with the soda, there's also a couple other things, like basically just thinking about liquids. And whether you're starting a soda or the other thing that I put out there that is a really great opportunity, but a huge mountain to climb, is the making of honey wine commercially. And we do have a lady in the area, Griffin Avey, and the name of her company is Alchemy, and she just got through all the hurdles of the state tobacco and alcohol and tobacco and also federal. So that's going to be rolling out really soon. And then there is there's one up here in Marshall too, right? The Fox Hill Meadery, but just minor, right? I mean, Asheville alone has like 15 breweries now, right? So I think there's a lot of room with making of honey wine, and you can basically use the same base to make a soda. And I think I kind of just wanted to also say that all of that starts out as a tea. And I just got back from working down in Jamaica about maybe a month and a half ago, and I was really inspired. There is this company, Tops and Sipacuppa, which is actually the same company, and they have all of these cool, like, it's like the celestial seasonings of Jamaica, but they are using all of these wild plants, some of which we have here, like sarsaparilla, that's like the smilax, the blasphemy vine, greenbrier, catbrier, some people might know it, or Spanish needle, also known as beggar's ticks, bidens. And so I see that as a potential thing too, that could be something that we don't really have a ton of yet in the area. There are some people definitely making some tea at a kind of boutique level, but that could be a real cool commercial endeavor. And then potentially, for instance, incorporating the leaves of ginseng into something like that, but like a minor amount of ginseng and then mostly like the sweet tea vibe or some of these more weedy types of products. Okay, that's a Jagulan, sweet tea vine. Yeah, Gynostema pentaphyllum. All right, so we've got one other thing in there that is on the back page I just wanted to talk about real quickly, and that is these bliss bites, which are a pretty easy thing to accomplish, a very open format, and also something that's not being commercially pursued currently. So just figure I'd plant that seed with people. And so in this case, we've got raisins and sunflower seeds, and raisins, sunflower seeds, molasses. In this case, I have some of this great molasses, the Doubletree Farm molasses going on here. So just once again featuring another local product. And that's about the size of it, along with the ginseng, just a small amount of ginseng extract, basically. that was mixed in as part of the liquid, and did a number of different coatings too. The yellow one is turmeric, the dark brown one is curry powder, and the light brown one is cinnamon. And I'm wondering about how to like administrate these, because I do have some toothpicks, so I think I might go ahead and grab those to just make it easier to be able to deal with them, because they're a little bit stuck together, I'm noticing. But this is another really easy thing to do, basically putting all of your material, whether it is whatever dried fruit you like. It doesn't have to be raisins, could be craisins, could be figs, could be dates, you name it. I use raisins and sunflower seeds because that's very economical, but if you have the wherewithal or the hankering or the craving, you know, it could be cashews. Also, I wanted to have something that was allergy free as well, because a lot of people are allergic to a lot of different kinds of nuts. There is some tahini in here too, as far as that goes. Yeah, so I think pretty much, once again, a very easy format to play with, but also an entry point to bring in some really special story beyond just the ginseng, like using a honey from Doug Elliott, for instance, who's a really incredible storyteller and naturalist and teacher in the area, or the molasses from Doubletree Farm, or from your farm, or from another farm that's local. Something like that can be a great way to incorporate this sort of thing. Okay, so I think that's what I got for you, other than I want to administer these. And I got to get some toothpicks, so I'm going to go grab those, and then I can come back and answer any final questions with the time that we have. So we'll have a little break for now. Okay, we'll be right back.